Okay, in the second activity, second online activity for your week 5 workshop, we're going to be focusing on this idea of assessment. Okay, so we're going to be looking at developing assessment strategies from the edar504 workshops. You would have realized from the Eisner reading that he focuses on this idea of process and product. Okay, so he's very keen on this notion that that in visual arts education, evaluation or assessment is not just about the final product. The reason for that is obviously, if you're going to have a classroom of 20 students, you're going to have a couple of students who are really good at drawing and, a majority of students who perhaps struggle with it. It's actually very unfair to sort of assess their learning in drawing, because it may be that a couple of students are always going to excel and the other students won't. So you want to be looking at something else that you're actually assessing and evaluating. So when you use the product and the process, or process and product, what you can actually do is you can still assess the product, but in a really objective way rather than making it subjective. But also with the process, you can see that students are learning about the visual arts and how the visual arts work in a really deep and meaningful way without necessarily having to be producing the most incredible work. So process is what the students are doing as they're leading up to the product, and the product is obviously the final outcome. So using this table that you can see on the screen at the moment, I'd like you to do the same thing for weeks 1, weeks 2, week 3 and week 4. And if you feel particularly enamored with the whole process, week 5 as well. Okay, so I've created a very basic table there, and I've got the process, I've got the product, and I've got a cross-curricular connection as well. And then the left-hand column is the week and what we actually did in that particular week. I don't want you to do this with the learning to see, seeing to learn at the moment. That's sort of a given that we're doing that. I want you to focus on the actual the theme of the particular workshop. So in week 1, we did the Alexander Calder contour drawings, and we did an Alexander Calder inspired wire head. So think about how you can split those two things into the processes and into the product and into a cross-curricular learning opportunity. So I've given you some examples there with the contour drawing one and a few little examples of the wire head one. And now I'd like you to complete that and then do the ones for weeks 2, 3 and 4, and if you feel so inclined, week 5. So with the contour drawing, the process was, we had a series of those guidelines. So it's a single line, pencil always touching the paper, eyes closed, feeling the face, 3 drawings, and your pen was in the non-dominant hand. I haven't written that down there, but those were the guidelines. So in your assessment strategies that you pull out of that for your students, you can actually use those guidelines as the criteria that you're going to be asking them to meet. So did they actually use a single line? Did they, was the pen always on the paper? Were they feeling their face? Whilst they may not seem directly connected to development in the visual arts, it is about learning, how to engage in the studio and how to sort of, in a way, give in to, not give in, but you know what I mean, sort of take up those processes that will enhance their visual arts abilities. And in order to actually assess those processes, you might want to think about students taking photographs of each other, or you taking photographs of them. You might want even to film them. Students can reflect on how they met those guidelines, and then teach observation. Those are 3 very basic ideas. In terms of the product, you might want to have a look at the contour drawing as being, the finished drawing that has all the qualities required. So if somebody didn't do a drawing, they obviously haven't sort of, met that part of the outcome. But you're looking at the drawings that we produce ourselves. And in terms of assessing that, you can actually get the students to take responsibility for the assessment. So every student will have a portfolio, and that portfolio needs to be developed over the course of their term. So get the students to take responsibility for putting the artwork into their portfolio, and in a lovely, orderly, neat way. Not saying that I'm a neat freak, but obviously you'd want their portfolios to be neat. So get the students to take the responsibility. If they want to mark at the end of the term for their visual arts, they need to be putting their work in there. And what you'll find is that in week 1, they may do a fairly good job of that. But when it comes to week 2 and then any subsequent week, they're going to be more attuned to why they're doing this. So their work will improve, and they'll be very conscious about putting their work into their portfolio in a neat and orderly fashion. You might even ask them to write a short reflective statement connecting their learning to the cross-curricular idea. So what have they learned about two-dimensionality through that process? And that would also connect really nicely to the wire-head one as well with three-dimensionality. So complete the process for week 1 and the other weeks, and then just looking at the wire-head one, I put an idea there about how you could assess the final product. You could actually, having been to the gallery, you could get students to create their own exhibition in their classroom, where they're taking responsibility for putting it up. You might even go as far as, what is the lighting like? Where's a good place to put the exhibition up? When you were at the National Gallery, what did you see about, the way exhibitions were curated there? They could take the role of being a curator. There are so many things that you can do that isn't just about the doing in the art room. When we were at the Callum Morton, I think you would have been shown the plaque on the wall where his name is, the name of the artwork, the date, and all the rest of it. You can do the same thing with the students, so the students can create their own little plaque, and that can be part of the assessment strategy as well. Okay, so what I'd like you to do with this is complete it as a document, and I don't want you uploading it onto Leo because these are your own private thoughts, but I would like them going into your sketchbook so I can see them when it comes to the moderation time in a few weeks.